Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. I'm Gunnar Rios, and welcome to another episode of the Logical Gamers podcast. Tonight, I am joined by Mr. BlankaKong, Mr. Esoteric, and Mr. Hado Wolf. And tonight's episode is going to be our first impressions of the brand new Zelda game, sequel to Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. I got it right this time. So, if you know where that comes from, you watch our content, and I'm appreciative of that. So, as my spiel just said, we're going to talk about our first impressions. None of us have beaten the game yet. Some of us are further in the story than others. If you've been watching Mr. Esoteric stream, he streams on Twitch. He's probably potentially the furthest out of all of us because he plays when he streams. So, needless to say, we're going to try to keep spoilers to none. If we say something that's considered a spoiler, I apologize to the members of the panel. I apologize to you at home. We're not dropping any major story spoilers, but there's a potential that could happen. So, if you don't want to be potentially spoiled or what you feel is a potential spoiler, maybe this one isn't for you, but just hey, leave us a like and leave us on in the background, right? Okay. So, I'll start off with my first impressions. Like I said, I haven't beaten the game yet. I don't think I'm close to beating the game. I've done a couple, I guess, main story beats, I'll call them for lack of a better word. And without spoiling them, I think the main story beats are by far better than they were in Breath of the Wild. And I would love to elaborate on that, but I can't. But I personally think they are better than Breath of the Wild's. I'll use the word story beat. So let me get off of that topic. As far as the mechanics, I think the powers, the ascend, the ultra hand, and the time dilation. I know it's not called that, and again, there's another power that you guys get later on. So I'll just keep it to the original powers you get on Tutorial Island, I'll call it. I think they are way better than Breath of the Wild's powers. After playing Tears of the Kingdom and looking back on the abilities you got in Breath of the Wild, I was like, I did come to think, why were two different types of bombs considered powers? Like they're bombs. That shouldn't have been like an ability that you need a godlike ability to wield. So bombs are just normal things now. They're kind of like the bomb flowers from Ocarina. So if you've played that game, it works similar. You could attach it to the arrows, which is, the combined feature is one of my favorite features because it doesn't completely get rid of, but it alleviates the weapon degradation that um that was in the first game that I had a major problem with. And I do like the fact that they put a canonical reason why you need to combine weapons in this game. I thought it was pretty clever. There's a canonical reason why you have to combine a traveler's sword with a moblin horn to make it stronger. So again, I think the powers are way better than Breath of the Wild's powers. Um, and I don't want to ramble too on, so I'll start with that, and we can kind of talk about how we feel about the powers that we get, the abilities we get in the game, because that's something you get access to almost in the first couple minutes of gameplay. So now that I rambled a little bit, I'll pass it off to whoever wants to take it. Give us your first impressions, initial things you like, initial things you dislike. You know the drill.
Well, I'll go second because the I'm more in the beginning than everyone else. Hell, I'm still on the tutorial island. Um, so far, my first impression is the game is phenomenal. Like, I have no quarrels with the game as of yet, which I'm pretty sure some will arise because it's just a game. It's not perfect, but I love it. Like, I think it's a really great game in this day and age when compared to video games overall. Um, the fusing, it blew my mind to fuse a boulder to a sword. It I've never seen anything like that before. And obviously, it being a Zelda game to introduce that kind of mechanic is just like wow. Or even being able to create bomb arrows again, which is something I love in any Zelda game that it was available in. I always loved bomb arrows or fire arrows, for example. I do love the fact that he lost his arm because it's the first Zelda game that showed that went well. Zelda games in general are dark when you look at it, when you look at the underlining of the storyline. But the fact that there was a sense of amputation to the hero's
That's
body,
that's true. He lost the body part. Yeah.
right? It was like, oh, this is insane. Like it's not his arm, which I'm pretty sure by the end of the game it'll purify into being his arm. But at the end of the day, it's just the fact that he lost his arm. It shows yet another factor to Link that even though Link is supposed to be this really powerful swordsman or this really powerful warrior in this particular universe, for The Legend of Zelda, he still is just a human being, or he still has weaknesses. So he's not perfect, but he's not, you know, impervious to damage. Um, I I think it was just so far the way that you use your powers. The I mean, I put a fan on a this train thing and put it on a reel and created my own transportation system, or to create a boat, or what's the new one that I have now is there's the one where you put things together, and then there's the second one that you get
What the
the
fuse ability?
fusibility, but then there's the oh
Ascend.
right, because this right, the other one. All the powers that I have so far, plus being
Mhm.
able to combine your weapons and your items and stuff like that, it's just it like I'm more interested in exploring on what I can combine and what's gonna make of it than right now of
Hmm.
completing the story. So I could have gotten off of the tutorial island, but I'm just finding things and I'm like, ooh, what'll happen when I do this? The only sucky part is that if you detach the item from your weapon, it breaks automatically, no matter how sturdy your weapon was. Um, but I definitely have seen images online of people doing some crazy shit with those powers. So I'm looking forward to that. It just brings a new dynamic to what I know of the character of Link. Um, it's he's so different from all the other Links, and I've grown to appreciate that. I really have. Um, so yeah, I think it's a really good game so far, and I'm looking forward to beating it. And Ganondorf is scary as fuck.
Yes. Yes. This is my personally my favorite iteration of him. I
Yeah,
in terms of aesthetics, yeah, I
yeah.
agree.
So I'll leave it on to the rest of you guys.
I guess I'll go next since I am the second one with the least amount of playtime in this game. So far the game is phenomenal. I'm really enjoying it. As you know, my panelists here, my peoples, have stated, that spoke before me, the new powers are significantly better than the first powers in Breath of the Wild. Um, much like you, Gunnar, I was like, why the hell do we have two bombs? I guess one to remain stationary for certain slopes, and the other to just
Yeah, one
roll.
was square and one was circular. That
Yeah,
took up 2 slots.
yeah, it took up two slots. You know, I've never really used the square one, so there's that. Um, yeah, you have the fuse ability that allows you to, create things and combine them together. You have the ascend ability, which is I thought to be OP, being able to go through walls. You have the ultra hand, excuse me. The ultra hand is what allows you to actually fuse things together, like items to create, to kind of like traverse through the land and whatnot, while the fuse ability allow you to do so for weapons. And I feel like a really nice implement due to the fact that it allows more for individual creativity as opposed to being forced to do things a certain type of way. And these powers by itself just opens up new avenues for the new shrines that have been introduced in the game for like solving them and whatnot. And I find that to be really phenomenal. I'm pretty sure all of us have maybe resolved the shrine in many different ways. There was one where I went completely unga bunga. You had to put like these slabs on a rail, and all I did was take one of the slabs, put it diagonal, and just let it slide down with the sphere that you use to open doors. I just did it that way, and it actually worked. Like I was really shocked. And then what else? I also realized that not only can you create anything, but you have to give it some thought to some degree. Because there was a moment when I was streaming and I was trying to make a like a car, and I was trying to figure out why the hell my wheels aren't moving, and it wasn't until Gunner
Oh
actually
yeah.
actually told me like, hey, it's because you actually attached the wheels directly to the vehicle, and I'm like, oh shit,
The wheel couldn't turn. Yeah.
yeah, so the wheels couldn't turn, and it just shows how intricate and how much thought they put into the game. It was like, wow, that's amazing. Um, the they kind of also created some patterns within the first and second game. They started off the first game with Link pretty much getting a whole tutorial of the land. He had to go through the whole shrines before he found out the truth regarding King Hyrule. I forgot his actual full name. And then they kind of followed suit in Tears of the Kingdom, whereas this new guy, Ron Rue, who was kind of taking on that same persona of King Hyrule, where you kind of went through the shrine thing and everything, and then he showed himself as like a actual ghost, and he disappears once he knows that you're able to do your thing. They also showed Link getting his ass kicked with his arm being lost and whatnot, which kind of like foreshadowed what's to come, because we already know like Ganon's a boss. This particular aesthetic, as you guys kind of mentioned, he kind of looks zombified. I'm pretty sure he's gonna have like a humanoid, like an even more human form later on once he gather all his powers or whatever. Yeah, the game is just it's crazy, man. It's like a lot of things to absorb. Also, I must say that the NMs, the notorious monsters that you encounter within the game, are like way better. Like
Sorry, the what?
okay, so I know in like Final Fantasy MMOs they refer to these monsters as NMs, or notorious monsters. This particular Zelda kind of has that mechanic to some degree, because I ran into like a creature that kicked my ass. Like it had Kushala powers in terms of wind, and I could not touch it.
Well, I think
there was
those are
no.
just world bosses. Those were in the first game.
They were in the first game, but they weren't as powerful, so to speak, right? Like the most powerful ones were the Linnels, the half lion, half horse enemies. Then you had like the serpent dragons that were flying around. That's the most I remember, along with like the golems and the
Yeah, they're the golem and
Hinox.
the hill. Yeah, that thing.
Yeah, they had those guys, but in this particular one, they have like even more like scarier creatures that I've encountered. I'll just say this just to let the viewers understand. When it comes to me playing these particular games, I tend to stray. If you're gonna give me a game that allows me to go anywhere, I tend to wander off. I don't follow the story beats immediately. I tend to like do whatever it is that I can outside of the scope of the story, and then I start to kind of touch with the story. So with that being said, I tend to traverse into areas I probably don't belong in and end up finding shit that I know that I may or may not defeat. So that's how I encountered one of those world bosses. I feel like they're much more based on that only one I saw. I felt like it was much more diverse than the others that we had in the previous game. Um, and also in addition, just the enemies overall, they it looked like they're starting to be a little more civilized, so to speak. Like you'll see some of the moblins walking around carrying fruits, carrying food. You can actually steal them from their backpacks. Um, you also have like they have like little fort areas because in Breath of the Wild they were out in the open, but now they're in like little more enclosed spaces
No,
where you have to like.
they have forts in the first one, and they had like little closed off like communities and stuff, and they definitely had the fruit carriers in the first one. I remember seeing them, but
Really? I
they
don't
were
recall.
less common than they are in this one. So
Oh, I don't recall seeing those there. I recall seeing them like they actually had like their own little setting, and then they were kind of like how can I explain it?
they were more nomadic, I guess you could say, in the first game. But in this one, and in the first one as well, they had like little forts that they had built up, like little
Yeah, I
watchtowers
remember
Oh
and
that.
yeah,
things
yeah,
like that.
they had
Yeah,
that. But what I'm saying is like okay, in the first one they had like okay, they had huts and then they had like little like stands for people to kind of patrol and kind of scout to
yeah.
see what's
Mhm.
going on. They had that, but in this particular game, it's looked like it's more refined because you have like actual wall structures that are encompassing that particular area. I don't know if you've encountered that as of
Maybe I
yet.
haven't seen it. I mean, I've seen a camp. Like they would have a whole section kind of closed off with spiked like logs and stuff. Like I encountered those, but I mean those existed in the first one as well. So maybe you saw
Well,
something I didn't see yet.
yeah, this one is more like a fort, so to speak, where it had actually had walls and they really like closed in the space. You had to either climb over or like go into that particular space. It could be in a town that they invaded, like a little mini town that they invaded and
Hmm.
kind of made shop there. I'm not really sure. Again, I've only played for like a few hours. But that's kind of my point about the game that I love is because each of us, depending upon our play style, will encounter different things at different times. We'll you might encounter something earlier than I did based upon how I play and vice versa. So, I mean, I didn't think that they would have really emphasized on this game as much as they did. I thought Breath of the Wild was a phenomenal game. I didn't think that they could have expanded on it, and they did. We have a a main level, we have a sky level, and I'm guessing that there's going to be like a lower level, kind of like what Elden Ring did. So it's gonna be crazy, man. I can't wait to play a little more. I know I've been talking a lot. I need to hear what you got to say about it, Kong, and I kind of like chime in whenever I can after you're done with your points.
Yeah, so obviously I like the game. I loved Breath of the Wild, and I know you guys kind of all said it already, so I won't repeat too much. But yeah, the new powers are fucking awesome. And I love what I like about this iteration of Zelda, like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. We'll call it New Age Zelda. Is the fact that there's multiple solutions to the same problem. I think that's what makes it so fun, and they've only taken that concept and kind of ran with it with the fusing abilities. This might be a. So I'm only going to talk about gameplay stuff because I haven't delved into the story too much. Because much like Esoteric, I don't really go on the the beaten path. Like I usually go off and do other things that I'm typically not supposed to. Air quotes. So so one thing like we so far like I'm not too far into the game. I have the ultra hand, the fuse, the ascend ability, and the time stop ability or the rewind ability.
Rewind, yeah, essentially.
So that's all I have right now. I don't. I'm sure there's more powers because on the wheel, there's more slots. I haven't gotten there yet, but with the ascend ability, I feel like that power is really really strong, like too strong in some instances. When I first saw it in the trailer, I was like, "Whoa! You can just like bypass climbing and just go straight up to the top. That's kind of crazy. And one example of like really just like neutering a boss was the golem. So in the world boss, the golem, I forget what it's Talos, something
Yeah.
Talos. So they have
Talos.
they have them all over the map or whatever. And I was fighting one that was giving me a particularly hard time, and I was in an area I wasn't supposed to be in because the bokoblins were black and not red or blue. So I kind of like went further into the than I was supposed to. So I was getting one shot. And so anyway, the bokoblins on top of this Talos, he had like a fort on top of his back.
Yeah.
And he had bokoblins on top, and they had bomb arrows. So I was getting my ass pushed in with these guys, but I refused to I was like, nah, I'm gonna beat this guy. So my solution was to snipe the bokoblins before I can get into bomb range, and then try to get to the golem guy. But he's one shotting me too. I'm like, fuck, how am I gonna get to this weak point? So I'm like, oh, I wonder. He is a solid object, and it totally worked. Like you can use the ascend ability and go through his body.
You really can?
Yes.
Yeah, I did.
You could go
Oh,
through his
that's wild.
body
I didn't do that.
to the top, and then you could just
video
attack
file.
the you can attack the weak point. And when
I'm
I
doing this
realized
shit
that,
like Breath of the Wild. I'm climbing
that
and
too.
shit.
nah,
I thought that too, and I was like, I was more shocked that it worked
yeah,
than me
too.
even thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised I thought about it because it's like, well, this is kind of like I feel like I would have thought of this, but like the fact that it functioned, it worked effortlessly, right? And it just made the boss so much easier. But also like funner to fight in the sense that there's this like new creative way to interact with him that I'm not used to. It was like, oh, this is so cool. Like little things like that really make the game special. So yeah, I love the new powers are fucking great. I love kind of trying to figure out like what combinations I want to do with like my swords and my wooden sticks with what drops that I get, and trying to build a loadout of like weapons to like use for different situations. I love that personally. It's like a new layer of item management that I don't think existed in past Zelda games before Breath of the Wild, because your weapons do break, so you have to constantly restock with new things, and you can only restock with what you have. And I love that because it's kind of like survival games, and I love survival games. Because it's not just I have the ultimate sword, so this is my sword now. That's not how this game works at all. It's you have to adapt to every situation and use the tools that you have, the tools and resources that you have in front of you in order to succeed. So yeah, I think the game is awesome. Is it perfect? No, there's some design oversights that I've noticed that I feel could have been addressed very easily, but so far so good. The game is pretty awesome.
Yep.
I'll kind of open it up to I don't want to ramble. I can talk for the next 40 minutes, but
yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I just found it funny because in the group chat, Kong I think ran into one of the big like Chinese dragons that were in the first game, so it's not really a spoiler. And he was like, "Oh, I'm fighting this crazy ass dragon right now."
That's actually not what I encounter. I've seen the long dragons in the background, but I haven't fought them yet. It's a different kind of dragon.
You probably fought the one that I fought.
Oh,
He
shit.
probably fought the one that I fought that like has wing.
I didn't fight that one. I fought one that had fire powers.
Oh, mine was wind and lightning.
So I went into the desert area to the Gerudos.
Damn, you really out there.
So I went in there and it's I don't know, man. Wolf calls me a masochist, but I guess there's some truth to that. Because in the desert area, the nights are cold and the days are hot, so you have to constantly make sure you have food to keep you cool or keep you warm, depending on the time.
I doubt you have the armor.
I don't have the armor, so it's I have to manage my food, right? I think I have the pants that you get in the tutorial island that give you cold resistance, but that's it. I don't have anything else.
Okay.
And so that challenge, that aspect of managing, okay, how many water fruits do I have? How many spicy peppers do I have? Okay, how long can I go? What's the best path, right? If I take the shaded route, maybe I can get hit, you know what I mean? So there's a layer of strategy to traversing the area, and I personally love that. So I was in the Gerudos desert or whatever, and I'm just trying to find stuff, going into the secret caves, which I like a lot. It's a lot like, it reminds me more of Skyrim, where like, you as you play through the map in Skyrim, you kind of unlock these like little secret caves or whatever. You get like little knickknacks, little treasures or whatever. So I like that a lot. I enjoy that, and that was definitely in the first one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get to the top of this mountain, and I see this giant flaming, effect or animation. I'm like, what's that? So I go up there, and sure enough, it's a world boss, and the 3-headed fucking fire dragon shooting laser beams, and I got 4 fucking hearts, so I'm dead. As soon as he touches me, I'm dead. So I fought him. I didn't kill him because there was no way. Like, I didn't have the equipment to fight him. So, but yeah.
Oh, okay, so I thought
sick.
those were the dragons he was trying to fight.
No.
Okay, so I was just, I didn't put it in the chat, but I was thinking to myself, like, he's fighting a dragon while I'm over here looking for, because that's what I've been doing a lot.
Looking for
is
what?
trying to the armor in the game.
Oh, okay.
So I like the way I look, so that's what I've been looking for, and I like that there is different armor pieces in this game. They still have, I'm gonna assume they have the same pieces of armor from the first game. I'm assuming all of that is in there, and I know for a fact now there are new pieces. So I guess minor maybe baby spoiler, it's just an armor piece. Before, if you wanted attack up on your armor, you can, that only came from like a set called the Barbarian set. And
I remember that
it's
one.
3 points, and that was the only armor that gave it. And I didn't like that because it locked me into that one piece. But now there's a headpiece that has nothing to do with the Barbarian set that gives attack up, and there's another piece that's a completely different armor that gives attack up. So now there's more pieces of armor that give different stats. I'm like, oh my god, yes, I can slightly maybe min-max in this game without being tied to a specific look and an armor piece. So that's really cool. Like, that's, for me personally, that's huge.
Yeah, to kind of touch on that, I would hope that they could have implemented a mechanic where the armor, you can kind of expand the armors in a sense of kind of like Monster Hunter, where you can add slots to them and put some new skill sets on them to kind of alter the play style of that armor. I doubt that they did that, but that would be nice, giving the
maybe I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's a possibility. I know the Great Fairies are back, and those pretty much upgrade the defense of an armor piece, so they definitely return. But as far as like maybe having a piece of armor with 2 abilities on it, I don't know. I'm not gonna say no because I haven't found everything, so it's possible. But I know there's definitely more armor in the game, which allows you for more min-maxing and more like mixing and matching, not necessarily min-maxing. So you could maybe like put on, 2 pieces that increase your climbing ability, and then another piece that increases your heat resistance or your cold resistance. And for me, that's big. Like, that's, I love that in a video game. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been looking for fucking armor because I tuned into Esoteric stream and I saw he had the rubber suit on. I'm like, where the fuck you get that? I don't have that. Where do you get that at? And eventually I found out where to get it. I was like, okay, now I got it. Shit, dude, looking at walking out here and I'm still with the fucking the traveler's armor and shit.
I mean, I just love to explore. If I see, I could be focused on a shrine, and then there's just something on the side that piques my interest, and I'm like, ooh, this is why I can't finish games like Grand Theft Auto, because it's like there's so much shit to do. I can't, the ADD just kicks in, and it's like, where the hell do I go? Oh, there's a cave with a freaking with rubble. Let me blow this up and see if I can get inside, and that's how I ended up getting the rubber torso piece. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. They never had that armor in the first one, to my knowledge, because I'm pretty sure I didn't get everything in the first one.
The rubber suit did exist. That I can I
Oh,
could
it
say
was in the first one.
it did exist. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, see, I've never gotten in the first one, which is kind of like this game. I'm telling you, once I finish it, it's gonna force me to go back to the first one, just to play and do everything in there. Like currently, Sweet Like Honey is playing it, and you know the. I feel like you can go back and forth to each game. There's some slight uh configuration differences between the two, but I feel like if you play one, you can play the other for the most part
I mean,
easily.
yeah, they it's the same. I mean, mechanically, as in like
Mhm.
moving Link around the field, it is the
Yeah,
same game. It's literally the same game. Obviously, the traversal options are vastly different.
yeah,
Before it was fast travel and horse. Now it's fast travel, horse, and any vehicle your mind can think up.
yeah.
And there are some like there. I know I've from the images you guys just shared in the streams. I know you guys have seen some of like the early vehicles, but there are other Sony devices that you can create vehicles on that just like they they bring it to a whole new level. Like I was making vehicles and doing certain things that you guys are gonna be like, oh shit, I didn't think you could do that. Because there's a lot of those Sony devices in the game. There's a lot of them, more so than what you like the fan and the flamethrower. Those are like the early ones they show you. There's a lot of different types in the game.
Yeah, when I was exploring in the desert, I found some. I was like, "Ooh, what is this?" And like a lot of fun stuff. Like I found rockets, and
Yeah.
like the rockets are really fucking crazy. And then I found these giant fucking wheels that like you could do off roading on basically, and you just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
"Whoa, this is crazy!" And then like there's a control Zony device where it's like you can literally drive whatever you're attaching that
Yeah,
control
okay, so
to.
you said you now that you said it, I'll say it. Yeah, the whole control thing was really cool because my one of my biggest complaints, not a big complaint, but a complaint was, oh man, I made this car, but it goes in a straight line. That's it.
Yeah.
I wish there was a way to control it. Lo and behold, there is a way to control it.
Yeah, they it looks like they pulled out all the stops. I haven't encountered that specific one. I've gotten the basic ones like a wing. I got the fans, I found a rocket, but I didn't use it as an actual like traversing device. I used it as a weapon. And then I also did something where like I'm sure you guys already encountered where the Korok that loses his friend. Um and he's like, "Oh, I need you to like take me to my friend." You know, the little like
Yeah.
leaf people. So
Mhm.
what I did was I attached a couple of rockets onto him and just flung his ass over there. You know, I just went straight unga bunga again. Like I just was like the simplest thing possible. Once my creative juices start flowing, I'll do more. But I'm so focused on the immediate problem where I'm trying to come up with an immediate solution. And I think it's good and bad at the same time because some of these shrines really forced me to think. Like Gunna was watching me stream and there was one where you had to knock the sphere into like a bullseye, and I'm like, okay, well, let me just take this they have a couple of contraptions that spin and you have to kind of like expand on it. So essentially I took like this log and I attached like this platform, made it into like a little paddle, and when I swung it and it hit the sphere, it freaking broke. That's when I realized that the fuse of the ultra hand ability when it attaches something, it isn't absolute. I thought it was, but that's when I realized like, oh shit, the glue that you use to attach two items together,
It's not invincible, yeah.
it's not invincible. So I was like, now that means that I had to pay attention to reinforcing what I just created. I also found out a couple of things about like, okay, so impact played a factor in that. Weight also plays a factor. So if you're like creating like a bridge or something of that nature, um, you have to be cognizant of where you place the glue and how you put things together, because your weight can definitely cause that structure to break. And I found that to be so amazing. I immediately started thinking like, shit, like how much work day in and day out, how much nights and like time that they had to spend overnight to code all of this, because this is a lot of work to have all these things implemented in a game and actually make sense. It's mind-boggling. I
I'm
mean,
glad you said that, because there's like, so there's two opinions everywhere right now. There's either this game is
Okay.
amazing and it's great,
Uh-huh.
which I agree with. It's not perfect, right? I'm not
No.
blindly
Yeah,
saying
absolutely.
the game is perfect.
Yeah.
It's
And
not
then
10 out of
there's
10.
I would say it's as close as a 10 we're gonna get to, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I 9.5, just because there's a few like
I think every game. I'm just of the personal opinion. No game is 10 out of 10 because there is a
that's true.
blemish or a
You
imperfection.
will find
in every-
something wrong.
Yeah.
and that's gonna
Yeah.
happen. Yeah.
But
So
I guess in
I could agree with
comparison to
that.
the other games, I guess they would say 10 out
Okay.
of 10.
Sure.
from the
Yeah.
scale
Okay.
It's a
of- yeah.
10 as far as like what we typically
we've-
get.
Yeah,
This is
Yeah.
a
Compared
10.
to shit like fucking Redfall, yeah, it's a 10.
Yeah, it's a 10, right? Sure.
Yeah.
But like in a true, like, let's look at it objectively and let's
Yeah.
pick at it, you're gonna find something wrong. There's no such thing as a perfect game. You're gonna find glitches, you're gonna find design oversights, and depending on who's rating the game, that's gonna vary, because some people have different preferences or whatever. Anyway, damn, I kind of lost my original train of thought. Shit.
Sorry, I just.
Oh, you were, I guess. So I made a
Oh,
point
right.
about.
You made it right. So your opinion, like, okay. So there's two opinions. There's the game is great, and then there's a lot of people that are saying, well, it's the same shit. It's basically DLC, and it's like, I see what you're saying, right? Because on the surface, it's like it's the same map, it's the same character, the same, like, obviously they use the same, physics engine or whatever.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, sure, that's all the same, but like, you don't see all of the new features that are added into this game, and it is a direct sequel, so it should be close to the first one, right? It's so silly to me, that opinion. So
Listen,
I'm glad you said that.
These are the same people that play Madden and 2K every year. Not that that's a problem. If that's your go-to game, that's perfectly fine. But honestly, at the end of the day, all they're giving you is a bump in the graphics and roster changes. So
If that.
I mean, if that. So if you can deal with that, then you can definitely deal with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Like, it took tremendous work to do what they did. Yes, most of the blueprint was already there, but they expanded on it. You have a whole, first of all, due to the upheaval, a lot of that terrain changed. So the developers had to make adjustments to the terrain itself. It might be the same map.
That is a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be the same map. However, structures had to change. Not to mention, which is kind of like I'm kind of like thinking about, is this, I know it's a direct sequel, but how much time has passed? There's a lot of things that have occurred within the game, which kind of allows me to conclude that some time has passed, like those towns being made, aside from
Korra became waifu.
yeah,
Illegal.
yeah, like, which is like the minimal. It was just a character rig and character design or whatever. But a lot of things have changed within the land of Hyrule, and this whole creative mechanic that allows you to build things that you want to build, and is one thing that they implemented. That it's another thing to, okay, take what you build and try to solve this puzzle. So there was a whole bunch of puzzles that they had to have. Certain things work within the weather differently. Enemies have become a little more intelligent in how they do things. Like, they're carrying fused weapons now. They're creating fused weapons. Like, they're working in cahoots with other enemies to kind of fight with you. Because I was fighting, I think it was a Hinox. I'm not sure if it was a Hinox per se. It kind of looked like it. but it was cooperating with the moblins. Like usually when you deal with Hinox, they're usually by themselves. And then as Kong spoke about the Talus allowing the moblins to ride on him and use him as like a mount to kind of pick off people from far away. That's freaking amazing. Like people just find many things to complain about. It's like they're insatiable. You know what I'm saying?
Well, people are just fickle, right? Like,
yeah,
they're constantly changing their opinions. Like, they're just inconsistent. Because I don't know.
Yeah, to say that is to say
it's the same people that
every
said
Pokemon is DLC.
It's the same people that said Elden Ring is just a Dark Souls 3 expansion. It's like, I see what you're saying in a way. Like, the games are very similar. They're close as far as like look and style and all that. But like, they're two different games. Like, this was made from the ground up. Like, I don't know. Like, some people are just haters are gonna hate, right? Like, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
But they, to my point, they did a phenomenal job. I'm pretty sure it was a lot of coding, a lot of sleepless nights. I already have. I probably racked about maybe 6 or 7 hours in the game, and I haven't even scratched the surface yet. Like, to me, that constitutes a good game because on average, these games nowadays are only giving you about 6 or 7 hours. The rest is cinematics,
Well, that's what a lot of people look for. This game, like, it's funny. I heard somebody trashing the game the other day, yesterday actually.
Wow.
And I was asking him, like, so what was wrong with it for you? And he was just like, it's just ass. Like, he just couldn't explain what he didn't like about it. And I think for that guy, it was just a preference thing. Like, he just doesn't like that kind of game, which is okay. Like, some people like more linear games, some people like more open world games, and it kind of depends. Like, for me, like, if we're talking like let's compare the original Demon Souls to like Dark Souls 3 or something like that, where Demon Souls, you kind of pick the level, you kind of go through it. I kind of like that structure better than the open world Souls game, or I say open world, but like open-ended kind of like level design of Dark Souls 3, for example. But I can still look at Dark Souls 3 and go, yeah, that game is pretty solid, right? So
yeah, you could take games that you are not really fond of and look at them objectively and give reasons as to why you personally don't like them, but also reasons as to why they're good. If you are someone who just don't like something and you can't kind of articulate why you don't like it, then chances are you haven't really given it a chance, or you're just a part of the crew that just wants to hate on it just because. That's pretty much it. You have to give reasons as to why you like or dislike something.
You don't have to, right?
Well,
you can just choose to live ignorant and just kind of project that way. That's fine. You can live that way. It's not recommended, but you can do it. I think more people need to spend more time thinking about things in general, not just video games, but just life. Like, think before you talk. Like, just sit down for a minute and just mull it over and go, do I really feel that way? I think that'll be really helpful for you. It helps me, that's for damn sure. So anyway, I'll quickly just talk about some of the things I don't like about this game, or things I wish they would change. So, like, we talked about it before recording. When you can fuse consumables and other like items, materials to your arrows, and you get different effects, right? Which I think is amazing. However, there are some materials that you're going to use more often than others, right? Some materials you'll never use. Like, you're never going to fuse an apple to your arrow on a regular basis. Like, that's not the +1 attack power isn't worth it when you can fuse a bokoblin horn on there or something like that, right? So there are some items that you're going to fuse more often than others. And the interface that they use for fusing is just a straight line of every item you have in your inventory, which I think is a mistake. It's like, that's way for the amount of materials that you can acquire. It's crazy to have to go through this long fucking list of 40 items, because I'm an item hoarder, right? Like, I hoard everything. So for me, that's a problem. So the fact that there isn't like a shortcut or like a macro to kind of select your top 6 items and be able to interchange them freely depending on the area that you're in, because like I mentioned, each section of the map is going to have different types of enemies who have different weaknesses, and you're going to want to exploit those weaknesses with the different items that you've you've obtained. So I think that's something that they need to work on. Just little shortcut things like that, similar to how Monster Hunter had it, where Monster Hunter you have like your item menu, the old school
Yeah.
item menu, which I used personally because I've
Same,
just grown
same.
so used to it. But they have the radio menu where you can kind of pick and choose what items you want to quickly have access to in the heat of combat. So that's something I think that they should look into doing. And it's something that I think can easily be patched in within the first month of the game. Another thing too, which is like a little disappointing, when you die or you reset the area, all your vehicles that you've built or the structures you've built reset. That
Oh,
drives
yeah,
me
that.
crazy. That
Yeah,
drives
that I
me
did not
insane.
know. I only
Because
had
I spend a
one
lot of
glove
time building stuff, and I go, "Oh, this is perfect," and I have like this weird car rig or whatever where I could transport items and all this other shit, transport the little Korok guys or whatever, and then I go into a shrine and it's gone, and I'm like, "Well, fuck! I gotta spend another 10 minutes or 15 minutes building this thing, collecting all the materials again." So having a option to kind of like keep your vehicle in place,
Yeah.
that would be nice. So
Yeah, that I agree. I'm gonna like address the first point in terms of like the inventory management. Yeah, it's not that great. I feel like there should be more uh categories within the menu. I'm tired of having like our like sustenance inventory along with what we use for our weapon inventory, where they have like the Keese wings and like the Keese eye along with the apples and whatever other meals you have. I understand that they can be utilized in different ways, both cooking and weaponry, but I feel like it would have been better if they were able to separate it. I also wish that they, with all this like the theme of being like creativity and allowing you to create, they should have allowed you to preemptively create your arrows within the menu. I don't know if they did that yet, or if you're capable of doing it. So, like for example,
I haven't found the
you
ability
could.
for that thing to do that.
Okay, yeah, because I was thinking maybe it for all these options you have, you should be able to create them beforehand, right? So you want to use the Keys Eye with the arrows. You can kind of combine those before, like within the pause menu before you go into battle, and then it has like the different arrows that you have its own separate category or something, something
I guess
along those
their
lines.
reasoning for that is that the entire game pauses while you're doing this, so nothing is going to hurt you while you're fusing.
the problem,
That's
and I
true,
get
but
that, the
kind
problem
of
with that is it's cumbersome.
beats and
No, yeah, it is.
and the pacing kind of throws me off. If I'm in the middle of an actual fight or a boss fight and I want to be able to have all my weapons already there and available to me before I get into the fight, so that way I'm already prepped instead of going through the motions of creating them while I'm fighting this guy and then losing my pacing and like the whole losing the whole pacing of the fight, because I don't know about you guys, but when it comes to certain games, if I pause, I tend to lose my momentum, things start to change or whatever.
Yeah, that's like running in a straight line and then having to stop every 10 steps. You're not going to keep the same speed as though if you were just running straight through without stopping.
Exactly. And then so I feel like they should have definitely kind of refined that a bit. And again, going with the theme of creativity, because that's pretty much what Tears of the Kingdom is. They should have had an area for Link to he should have had his own base, basically, like where you can actually customize it, build it to your liking, from the structure of the building down to like the what you can put inside, like have like your not your armors there or whatever, because you can carry everything along with you, but just to have like maybe a weapon cache, because you can't carry every single weapon you encounter. Maybe to have like a little garage for all your vehicles and stuff, things like that, just more customization and like giving Link a little spot. Again, this is filmed and under the premise of me just playing a few hours into the game, so there might be something there that I don't know.
Well,
But it would be nice.
they don't have that anymore. I don't know if you guys did it, but remember there was a village where there was a side quest that if you gave a guy enough money, he would make your own house in that village. He would build you a house. There was a quest in Breath of the Wild where you had to do that, or you could do that, and you could have your own house. And you could do that. They had like weapon mantles where you could put weapons on the wall, and it was a free bed that you didn't have to pay for.
See, I did not
didn't
know that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, that was the thing.
See,
The funny thing is that house still exists. You could still sleep in that bed. It's just not your house anymore. Zelda took it. It's her house now.
Damn, he got hit with
So-
that fucking
she has a whole
divorce.
castle, and she took.
So like I think I said it in
That's funny.
Esoteric stream. The whole beginning of the game felt like Mega Man Legends 2
Yeah,
because I'm like, where's my paraglider? Where's my
Yeah.
armor?
yeah.
Zelda, did you sell my shit? And it's like when I went to that house and I was like, oh, this is my house. I remember because I did the quest. You got to give him like a couple 100,000 rupees to get that house. And I'm like, oh shit, my house is still there. So I guess it carried it over from the save data. I walked in, there's like pictures of Zelda, Zelda's horse, Zelda's diary. I'm like, this bitch stole my house.
I mean, it's pretty realistic. Like, you know,
No,
once she
it-
moves in, she kind of takes over.
No,
So
my man got friend zoned hard. Man, the woman took his house and they're not even dating. Like,
Oh my god! You see, this is why I need to go back and play that game. Like, I mean, it was a phenomenal game. And I played it without looking up certain things and reviewing things. Like, the goal is to play both games to its entirety now. Like, I want to get everything I possibly can there, collect everything. I had no idea that there was a quest like that, you know.
yeah, I think it's in the Hattori village. It's in the same village where you can dye your armor. You could change your armor dye. You know about that, right? That's not.
Okay. So
Oh, okay.
so
That's also in the first game. so-
yeah, I know it's in the first game because I was collecting material that kind of alluded to that, but I've never
I never used
gotten
it.
the quest. I've never
Yeah,
gotten the
I never
quest.
used it.
Oh,
Um,
well, to dye, it's not a quest. There's a shop in that village, and if you have the materials, you can dye it a
I
variety.
remember
of colors.
getting the dyes, but I never
Yeah,
actually like
same.
really used
Oh,
them.
well, that village in Breath of the Wild it's like at the back in its own little plot of land that you have to cross a bridge to get to, so it's separated from the village. That was a quest where you spoke to one of the carpenters, and he was sad because he doubted his building skills, blah blah blah. But the quest was you give him money. If you keep giving him rupees, eventually he will build you your own house, and that's where you could like it had the weapon racks where you can put weapons there for like display or as a form of storage, like you were saying, and had a free bed where you could sleep in without having to pay an inn or like waste time where you could recover hearts. But whenever you guys go to that village, that house is still there. The bed is still usable. It's just not your house anymore.
I wonder if the house isn't there for me, considering I didn't do that quest.
That'd be,
That'd be
interesting.
interesting.
I don't know
That'd be
because
interesting.
yeah, I like that was another thing that was boggling my mind. Like, there's no save data bonus. Like, when you boot up the game, it just starts. There's no even menu. It just says Nintendo presents Legend of Zelda, and then I'm walking with Zelda, and it's like, okay, so all right. So I assumed nothing carried over until I went to the stable because I think we talked about this. So we all know about that because I'm a simp, so I have all the amiibo, and I was trying to scan the amiibo to get Epona back. I'm like, well, let me get my fucking free horse. I'm like, why is it not? It's giving me like a chest with food and shit, but it's not giving me Epona. So I went to when I eventually went to a stable and just talked to the guy. All the horses that you stabled in Breath of the Wild are still in the stable. So I was like, oh, so it had to have read my save data. So you know what? I'm very curious when you guys get to that village if there's a house back there. That'd be very curious to see.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out because I registered a black steed, and I named it Ebony, and then Gunna could tell you I was streaming, I was looking for a horse, The first horse I had, I didn't register it. It was just, I was using it to, travel around. And then we got into a fight and the horse just ran. It ghosted me. Like, it's gone. Typically in the first one, the horse would just be around the area, standing around.
So the
But
horse is probably still in the area because I had a horse that I took from a macabre. I don't mean to cut you off, but or
No, it's okay,
macabre, and I parked it inside of one of the broken down, like there used to be a structure there or whatever, and it's just
Okay.
kind of like half built or whatever. So I kind of put him in there and I started exploring, and then I forgot where he was. I was like, shit, where's that fucking horse? And then like hours later, I'm talking like 2 days after playing, I went back to that structure. I'm like, damn, did I find everything in here? And then the horse just came out from where I parked him. He was like, hey buddy, you're back. I was like, oh shit, you're here. This is where I put you.
Lucky you, because in
So,
my case, I don't
know.
know. I searched everywhere. Gunnar can attest to this. I searched everywhere. I went on the top of a hill searching for it. There wasn't a horse in sight. I was like, holy shit, where did it go? So, kind of fast forward, I was like, this time I'm capturing a horse. So I ended up getting a black horse. I named it Ebony for obvious reasons. And I saw that they were like, oh, by the way, all your horses are here still, blah, blah, blah. This is in the third. And I had another Ebony there too. And I was like, oh shit, it's 2 Ebonies. So clearly, I had the same thought process from Sister One. I guess so. But to kind of add to the horse mechanic, I was shocked when because I submitted some of my pony points or whatever they're called, and you get a nice little rack for your horse to like carry shit. There's like a little, I forgot what they called it, but basically
the towing harness.
Yeah, it's a towing harness. Thank you. And I guess because I haven't used it as of yet, I'm guessing you can build stuff on it, or you can kind of like,
can you construct a chariot to attach to your horse?
You can add a chariot from what the dialogue the guy was stating, that you can have a chariot on it. But based on what I'm seeing, the pony points will add different components that the horse can do. Might get like maybe armor for the horse. But what I've gotten so far was just the carrying harness, which is going to be crazy because if I can execute what I'm imagining, I'll be able to carry tons of stuff with no problem. Building off of that harness. The game is amazing, man. I say, as I always said on the stream, highly recommend it. For those who did not play the first one, play the first one first, and then follow up with the second one. You will not be disappointed with either.
Yeah. The funny thing is, like, I feel like there's like a block of time that I'm missing because I played the original game. I didn't play any of the DLC. I know there were actual DLC stories, but to my understanding, they were just more backstory on the champions. So, but like, obviously there's been time, more than just a couple days that have passed, because characters, not just Pura, but there are other characters, I'll just say, that have changed physically, and it's just like, this has got to be a couple years at least. So I'm just hoping like there wasn't like a little Breath of the Wild DLC that I missed, because that's gonna nag the shit out of me personally. But and I won't be stated until I play it or just watch a playthrough of it. But I do like that there is time that's passed, and there are certain characters, like I said, that you guys will see that have changed because time has passed.
Yeah. So, I think that's probably what solidified my thing. I know I said earlier that I was thinking, well, did time pass? Like, what happened? Pura should have been the dead giveaway, right? Because she's a whole like adult again. So that should have kind of solidified my mindset to saying like, yeah, time has absolutely passed. I would have to assume so that is the case. Yeah. Especially along with like the structures as well, because I've never seen that town, especially for them having the they refined the underground portion of that place in front of Hyrule Castle, or wasn't like close to Hyrule Castle, where it's like a homeless shelter for all their people. Which I'm still kind of sort of annoyed with. They could have built me a nice little house there.
You had one.
Dude,
But was it that village though?
the country's in peril right now. You worried about them building you a house, and they're just trying to figure out this fucking biological nuke that went off. Like
the peril just happened. Okay, it just
no.
I saved the world. Pura is an adult. It's been years, and I'm still homeless technically.
Well, presumably,
you were living in the castle.
Yeah, you were living with Zelda in the castle as her champion.
The lies.
She dragged you down to the fucking depths of the castle like it was a fucking farmer's market on Sunday, and Link just had to go because, you know, that's his boyfriend duty or whatever.
And it sucks because if we just left that shit alone, Hyrule would still be Hyrule. I don't think
you wouldn't have a second.
Up.
You wouldn't have a second game. Don't be silly.
I mean, yeah.
So,
I mean, you're right, but still.
Another thing I want to mention too, that there's really no excuse, Nintendo. Yeah, y'all have made the money, right? The game has sold 10 million plus units worldwide in the first 3 days. Everything should be voiced. Everything should be voiced over. Like, there's no, come on. You guys can swing it. Every character and every NPC that you interact with that has vital information should be voiced.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, they've made way more strides than Pokemon, that's for sure. But
yeah, come on.
Yeah. I don't think they want to make Link talk. I think that's
I'm not talking about Link.
They don't even have to make
he doesn't have to talk. I'm talking about everybody else.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Yeah, I could agree. There's still a lot of
That's okay. I'm okay with that. But like, okay with like the general grunting. But like when it's like a character you're talking to that speaks English and has a speech bubble that pops up, that part should be voiced.
Or
I
what they
agree
would do,
with that.
they would go into like they'll have the and this has happened where you'll speak with a very important character. They'll have like actual dialogue. They'll have the voiceovers discussing whatever's going on, and then after a few minutes, they'll start talking. You have to read the
you have to read the rest. They'll start in the cutscene, and then it'll go into in game.
How big is that voice work budget? No.
Yeah, so there's really no excuse for that. So like the game isn't perfect. There's little, I don't want to say glaring issues, but there are issues that are there that are like any other game, any other modern game will get shitted on for. Straight up.
Yeah. Oh.
So it's like, you know,
I mean, Final Fantasy 16 releases and they don't have full voice acting. They'll never hear the end.
You'll never hear the end of it, right? So it's like, come on now, like let's be consistent here, and that's why I think some of the 10 out of 10 reviews and stuff is just blind, like kind of like excitement, which I understand, but it's like, okay, take a step back and really look at it and go, okay, well, would this pass if this was in Grand Theft Auto 6, right? No, people would complain. And people would say, no, there's no excuse for that. This is the new standard. So, anyway, I just wanted to make that point before we close out.
That's a good point. That is.
With it being a standard, yes, I could definitely see that. You know, arguably, whether or not it's a necessity, that's like a different
I wouldn't say
story,
it's a necessity.
you know?
It doesn't harm the game, the integrity of the game. It's just they have the money for it. This is not like a low budget indie studio or anything like that where I can excuse it, right? Go, okay, I understand. You know, that's not within budget, but come on now, like, I could afford this. Like, why are we cutting corners where we don't need to cut? Like, that would only increase the quality of the game. So why not do it? That's my opinion.
I personally think when the voice acting is there, it's pretty good.
It's fucking great. Yeah.
Oh yeah. When I first heard, well, this is not with Tears of the Kingdom, but when I first heard King Hyrule, like his voice, the voice actor with him was pretty spot on. Like, never heard the king before a day in my life, but he definitely like
sounded like a goddamn king.
Yeah.
I think Zelda's fine. Some of the other other important characters you guys will see, they're voiced well. Returning characters are as good as they were in Breath of the Wild. Yeah, I agree with
Ganon was
Kong.
great too. Ganon was phenomenal. Like, but what can we do?
I mean,
Nothing
I say
really.
this and I agree with it, but I've spent a lot of money on
Yeah,
Tears of the
you
Kingdom.
bought everything.
Listen. Overall, again, like to give a game a 10 out of 10, like to constitute it as an absolute 10 out of 10 would mean that it's perfect. In from games from since the dawn of time, when games kind of the dawn of time of games, excuse me, till now, there's always some room of improvement, right? So to give a game a 10 out of 10, it being perfect, that's kind of,
Well,
crazy to some degree. But I mean, with this game that has come out, Breath of the Wild, which has like overperformed compared to its counterparts, like whatever games was coming out during that time. I think Horizon was out during there, which was a good game back then, but to me it didn't beat Breath of the Wild. It's a great game based upon how many games are it's a great game based on what we get now,
yeah,
it's phenomenal.
I was gonna say this is a sad state of modern gaming, but it runs, it works. I haven't crashed.
It's
There's been
fun.
some frame drops, but it's fun. Like the game works right out the box. I don't have to wait till patch 1 point or 2.0 for the game to fucking run,
Yeah,
right? And
it's a game.
there's been Nintendo games. I mean, we could compare this to Pokemon, fucking night and day. Like Zelda runs, it works. Pokemon had issues and probably still has issues.
You want to hear something interesting that I heard recently and I didn't know? Apparently, Nintendo had went to the development team behind Xenoblade Chronicles, and they tried to get them to work on the Pokemon Scarlet Violet, and they didn't. Instead, they worked on this game.
Well, as a
Wow.
totally non-biased individual, I'm glad they worked on Zelda.
Yeah,
I
because they
heard.
were given
I
a
didn't hear
short
about that.
notice,
Yeah.
too short of a notice, and they were like, now apparently this is by the grapevine. I heard this on a stream. I forget which one, but like yeah, apparently they were like, nah, this is too short notice. We don't want to risk our reputation on if we can't deliver, we don't want to do it. So, but
I
could
respect
you
that.
imagine? But like the fact that was a thing goes to show me it's like, okay, well maybe they'll give them more time. So for the next one, maybe they'll work on the next Pokemon game, and we'll see a radical difference between
Or
Scarlet
come to them
Violet
sooner.
Probably. Yeah,
Come
because
and
to them
whatever comes
sooner.
next. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Monolith Soft, they've obviously done the Xenoblade games, and that's like they're super competent when it comes to open world design. So yeah, if you have an in-house studio that like we've made 3 solid, really well selling open world games. Yeah, you come to your people and be like, hey, we want to kind of take this game in an open world direction. You guys are the experts. You want to help us. You want to give us tips. What are they gonna do? What are they gonna tell their boss? No. Like,
Well, they
Yeah.
did the first time, but I mean, I'm just happy that these development studios exist and these relationships they're there, and we might get a really good Pokemon game in the future.
for the Pokemon fans, I hope so. I do because
It's been
I mean,
rough, man. It's
yeah,
been
it's
rough.
been rough. But hey, Zelda works. So
But yeah, Zelda's
hey.
amazing. So anyway, any final thoughts? I kind of said everything I wanted to.
Based on the parameters of this episode, yes. You guys, there's a lot of stuff you guys haven't experienced yet that I think will change your opinions on certain things and will enhance your opinions on other things when you guys get there. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I pretty much stated all my points with the limited exposure to the game that I do have. Overall, I came in with high hopes. The game is receiving high praise from me, and I'm definitely looking forward to playing this game until the wheels fall off. I feel like it was a missed opportunity with the last one where I kind of just played, beat it, and then kind of put it down. And it's in my my shelf just chilling. And now I feel like I gotta give more time into this game. Like get the ins and outs because it's a phenomenal game. It's a lot to do. I didn't appreciate that with the first game, but I'm definitely gonna do so with this game. I definitely plan on going back to playing the first game and giving it the love that it deserves as well. Because shit, building a house, I had no idea, among other things that's available in the game. And I'm gonna do the DLC as well. So Zelda is going to get a full like a lot of my time basically.
All
All right. Well said. So, all right. Well, for those listening, thank you if you made it this far. Thank you for listening. Appreciate your time. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. Dislike if you didn't. Comment down below. Let us know what you think about Zelda Tears of the Kingdom as far as like first impressions and first impressions as far as the gameplay is concerned. Subscribe. We do podcasts every single week, so we publish every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. We also do other kinds of content, so there's like 2-minute reviews. There's going to be like more shorts, things of that nature, long form gameplay content as well. We also have social media, so we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The links in the description will be below. We also run a Discord. The link's going to be down there as well if you want to check out that and join our community. We also stream, so Mr. Esoteric streams on the main channel, Logic Gamers TV on Twitch. He streams 2 to 3 times a week, and he's currently playing Zelda, but he does play other things as well, AAA games, indie games, retro games, party games, etc. So definitely give him a follow so that you know when he goes live. And that's pretty much it. So we'll catch you guys at the next one. Thank you so much for a great conversation, and yeah, we'll see. I'll be in Hyrule. So
Yeah, I'll see you guys there.
All right, take care.